we are an intergalactic superorganism. So we're part of something bigger. So people shouldn't think of intention as a magic wand. I'm going to wave this and nothing bad is ever going to happen to me again. That isn't what's going to happen. I could go out this afternoon and a bus could run over me. That is life. However, your response to life can be intentional. Now, a lot of what happens to you in your life, you bring upon yourself. You bring upon it with your own self-sabotage. That's another thing we work on in healing people's past. Um, you do a lot of self-sabotage, a lot of underperforming, a lot of moving away, a lot of conflict, a lot of fighting, etc. That has a lot to do with your past and about your view of the world, your makeup, which again is oftentimes written by the past, mostly written by the past. So I don't teach you that you're never going to have anything bad to you happen to you. But what I do teach you is how to respond and also how to maximize creating and manifesting a positive life. And that can be controlled. You can overcome your self-sabotage. You can overcome your your shyness. You can overcome your caution, you being overly cautious. You can overcome your inability to engage with the world. You can overcome those things with intention. And you can also take great leaps of faith, knowing that you have this power within you, because we all do. We were born with far more than we've been told. We have been given that very dismal scientific story of lonely competitive people on a lonely planet in a lonely universe. We're so much more. We were born and gifted with extraordinary powers, the power of intention, the power to see beyond our senses, the power to read people, to pick up information about them, the people to pick up information about our own futures, and so much more. And that's the other thing I help people do, is realize and live the miraculous.
I think it's I think we need to zoom in a little bit here if that's okay, because
Sure.
intention into intend, I mean, impend, like impending, like, yeah, is I can see the future element of it, and yet you've mentioned here in passing, but quite deeply, that actually you can go back with intention. It was one of the things I think was implied. And I think that deserves a whole moment to itself. Can we ask about that in terms of intention? Because when, oh, I'm intending to do this tomorrow, or I'm intending to do that tomorrow, right? Or intention generally has this future forecasting sort of frequency about it, when we use it in common vernacular. But yet you're saying actually we can use intention. Maybe like you get the nature of my question. Can you explain what's happening there?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, we have to redefine what time is. We've all accepted the idea of time as a forward going arrow. Time is linear. All quantum physicists these days say there's no such thing as time. It's much more a giant smeared out now, that human beings impose time on things. And yet you say, well, wait a minute. What about getting older? We all see our ability to get older. Well, that may be different. That is the body aging, but it doesn't mean time. It doesn't mean forward going time. Now, I've looked at a lot of experiments with time. One of my favorites is an Israeli professor who wanted to prove that you can't use science to study alternatives and alternative medicine. So he decided to take a big group of patients at a hospital that were suffering from sepsis, which is life-threatening blood infection. He puts them into two groups. One group just got the usual treatments, medical treatments. The other group got the usual medical treatments plus prayer. And he was very careful about this study. And he was sure he would demonstrate that you can't use science to prove something like prayer. When he calculated it, to his dismay, the patients that had been given prayer were better in every regard. They were healthier, they lived longer, they had fewer side effects. They were just better. Now, here's the kicker to the study. The prayer was done in the year 2000. The patients had been in the hospital from the years 1992 to 1994. The prayer was done 6 to 8 years later. What did he do? Essentially, he took the records of these patients, did randomize them, did prayer on one batch, no prayer on the other. And it was really carefully done. And yet, in every instance, the patients given prayer were better in every regard. In other words, he then looked at the outcomes of those patients and found they had been better. So it's mind-warping, but he published it in The Lancet, very important scientific medical journal, to say, see, you can't use scientific method to study something like prayer. And that was not how it was interpreted. The way it was interpreted is that you can go back and change the past. And there have been many studies, of course, many studies of intending and remote viewing the future, but also many studies affecting past events, whether it's your breathing, traffic in Vienna. There was an interesting study, gerbils on activity wheels, all kinds of things, showing that time is very elastic. And of course, I use this with, for instance, this course that I'm going to be running called Heal Your Past. Now, my husband, Brian Hubbard, who is the author of The Untrue Story of You, created a really revolutionary model of healing trauma and pain from the past called Time Light. And he discovered at the heart of his stuff is that time isn't linear, it's not a dimension, it's an energy. And so what we've looked at, and we run this particular course together, is I developed time traveling intention. And so one of the things I do with people who have had a past situation that was traumatic, and I don't mean big trauma like PTSD, but also traumas of being humiliated as a 5-year-old in your class when the teacher makes you stand up and say you're an idiot at math. That can stay with you for your whole life. And that is the work that we do. So what I do is I have a thing I call retro intention, where I have people replay that traumatic situation in their head. They don't change what happens. That's a lot of other people try to do that. Fairy tale, essentially. I don't change what happened. I change your response to it. So instead of hanging your head in shame, you would say, even with an adult voice, no, miss, I'm not stupid at math. I don't understand what you're saying, but I will when I'm a little older. And what happens is remarkable when people start taking back their power. And so what I find is we're releasing the energy of the past. And when you do, you release the past. So we have to understand life as one big smeared out now. The famous dean of engineering, the late Robert John of Princeton University, once said to me, because when I was researching the field, I was saying, what? How does this all make sense? And he said, take time out of it, Lynne, it'll all make sense. So once you take time out of it and understand we're one big smeared out now, we're also one big smeared out here, which I've found with my intention experiments. Doing intention on things that are 8,000 miles away, we still have an effect. Time and space don't matter in the quantum world.
Hey there, Inspired Evolutionary. If you absolutely loved this, well, then here's a full conversation with this guest on the Inspired Evolution podcast. Check it out now.